Hey everybody, welcome to What a Week. Chris McKinnon here with John Keller as usual, and it's been another week. Can you believe it? We are not talking about, well, we're not talking directly about President Trump this week. I think this is the first time.
No, and not, well, indirectly we are.
Yeah, indirectly we are.
But yeah, no, I mean, you can't wallow endlessly and all that stuff, you know. I mean, the fact that we're not mentioning the ridiculous and pathetic altering of the weather chart doesn't mean we don't find it interesting, but there's just too much else to get to.
Yeah, not enough time for us to talk about.
So we won't talk about that stupid, ridiculous effort to doctor history.
I think we'll be able to get like John's take maybe on like Twitter or something like that later on. Anyways, let's jump right into this week, and we're going to start locally here. There was the straight pride parade, so-called, last weekend. A few dozen people were arrested, counter-protesters for things like disorderly conduct, a couple of them with assault and battery on a police officer. So they go to court. The district attorney's office and defense counsels were both saying, okay, we'd like to drop charges against certain people, but the judge here basically said, no way. Yeah. And now it's set up this battle between Rachael Rollins, the district attorney for Suffolk County, and the judiciary here. What do you think is going to come of this, John?
Well, first of all, it's an important legal point that's at issue here, which is the law appears to give the sole authority to decide which cases to prosecute to the DA, not to the judge. So for him to say, no, we're not going to dismiss those cases is something that's going to have to be sorted out possibly by the SJC. But more to the point, you know, what fascinates me is the politics behind all this. Look, some of the people that were here in court, I don't know who this guy is, but some of the people that were in court were non-violent protesters. Some were not. Right. If you look at the videos, you can see there were a small number of people who were there to try to provoke a confrontation with the cops. Unfortunately, it looks like a couple of cops bit. They also, that behavior is also an issue, no question about it. But what happened is they had the initial arraignment there, and Johnny on the spot is the Boston Police Patrolmen's Association, which is a very conservative union that's been very hostile to DA Rollins's efforts, continuing a practice by her predecessor, Dan Conley, to cut down on the number of criminal prosecutions, to find diversionary ways to handle certain cases, non-violent crimes. Right. And it's been controversial, and that's a debate worth having. But, you know, there's been an effort from the get-go here to go after her on the politics of this, and as we've, I think, learned by now, if you want to pick a fight with Rachael Rollins, she's not going to roll over. She's going to fight back. So we have this very interesting legal issue that's going to have to be resolved here, and a very interesting set of political issues that are really bubbling up here and hopefully can be resolved. But I think we're going to be hearing about it for a while, Chris.
All right, let's now we'll go into the indirect talks of President Trump here. But Vice President Mike Pence visiting Ireland. Turns out he's staying at one of the president's resorts over there. And the reason, I guess, that they were giving behind it was approved by the State Department, and this resort can handle the security detail that's necessary for VP Pence and his wife.
So they say this is Doonbeg, the Trump International Golf Course on the west coast of Ireland. The key meetings with Irish government officials that Vice President Pence was there for are in Dublin, on the east coast of Ireland, 180 miles away. And that was really the issue here. Apparently, Pence has family ties to this same community where the golf course is. If he had wanted to, after wrapping up his business in Dublin, then take a swing through there, I mean, I don't think it would have been a big issue. Right. But apparently the initial story from Pence's own people was that he had told the president he wanted to visit this place. And Trump said, well, you should stay at my resort. Didn't comp Pence's room or anything. And of course, the expenses when you have the Secret Service, the traveling entourage, runs into serious money. That's taxpayer money being spent on this. So the whole thing was kind of an optically wretched ethics train wreck. Of the kind that this administration has become known for. And Chris, the broader issue here is when you look at the polling on what voters think about the Trump administration's ethics, the numbers are horrendous. Not just Democrats. We're talking independents. Something like 80% in one poll I looked at have a very low view of that. For a candidate that was elected in part on his pledge to drain the swamp, clean up the ethical morass of Washington, that's a bad look, big time.
Yeah, big time bad look there. And you would think going to Ireland is usually not really a controversial place to be going to lately, so I don't know.
These people can make controversy out of anything.
Anywhere they go. Last thing I want to talk about, we're going to stick over there in the UK, Boris Johnson. So basically, this whole Brexit thing he wanted to do with the hard Brexit, we're going to leave with or without a deal on October 31st. This thing kind of blew up in his face in Parliament.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. Now, keep in mind, when President Trump was running in June of 2016, that's when the initial Brexit referendum was, and to the surprise and shock of many, the British public voted to leave the European Union. And Trump, I think quite accurately, noted at the time that this is that this campaign is similar to his campaign. A lot of the issues surrounding Brexit had to do with immigration, unlimited immigration within the European Union. And he said people want borders. And he was proven correct in the Brexit case and in his own election. That was a major issue. Well, here we are 3 years later. About a year out from a midterm congressional election where his efforts to make that election about immigration, remember the caravans were all coming to get us, blew up, not just didn't work, blew up in his face and alienated a lot of voters who had otherwise been open to Trump. And so if Boris Johnson and the Brexit movement, which he was closely tied with, was a canary in the coal mine about a rising wave of sort of right-wing populism or spinning off of the immigration issue 3 years ago, and both the flop of the Republicans in the midterms and Johnson's abject failure so far to get anything done, I think it's also a canary in the coal mine this time, and it certainly bears watching as we head into our election year.
I thought one of the interesting things watching this whole vote go down, basically, over the couple votes the last couple days over there, is you saw some of these conservative members say, okay, I mean, first of all, if they voted against government, they were stripped of their whip, so whatever. But they crossed lines and said, okay, we're done.
And Johnson threw him out of the party.
Yeah. But we haven't seen a lot of that happen yet here. You know, where everybody talks about the senators, there's eyes on key senators. When are they going to turn? And is that when that shows that they won't get elected if they follow along?
That's a great question. We've seen moments. They initially rebelled against the attempt to divert funds to pay for the wall. The president's position was discarded by Republicans on sanctions against Russia. So there have been a few moments where they've turned their backs on him, but not very many, and certainly nothing like this. So again, you know, the past is prologue to the future. Someone much wiser than me once said, and I think that might be what we're seeing now.
All right, very interesting. John, thank you very much.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too, and everybody else. We'll see you next time here on What a Week.